How irritating. I've literally just done a whole 10-minute video going through this. And when that happens, it feels like it's just, you've let it out and you're like, I can't do that again. But I'm probably just going to sum it up even more simply because I've just spoke about it for 10 minutes. So the Sabbath is obviously part of the Holy Covenant. So it's eternal. It's not like the feast where you have to do it in your inheritance. It's not like the feast where it's to the, it's like the third day of the third month and the calendar's gone. It's work 6, rest 1. Constantine tried to change the Sabbath day, the true Sabbath day, to Sun God Day. So when you go and look at that, you're going to see that the true saints were keeping the Sabbath on Saturday. And since then, the work 6, rest 1, it's never been interrupted because the Sabbath day has always been Saturday. So just keep it nice and simple. Also, Saturday literally means Sabbath in most languages. Any language that I've seen anyway, and I'll have to try and link my brother's little document on that because it's really interesting. But Sabbath begins at dawn, the Sabbath ends at dawn. Every day begins and ends at dawn. A new day begins as another one ends. So you're going to see that in Exodus 19, Yah basically commands Israel to be ready against the third day. That means at the start of the third day. And when do they end up meeting? The crack of dawn. On the third day, crack of dawn. So the day begins at dawn. Matthew 28:1, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn towards the first day of the week, the end of the Sabbath, the end of the day is dawn. A new day begins at dawn. So keep that nice and simple as well. So read in the Holy Covenant, when God gives the 10 Commandments, you're going to see the Sabbath, it means to rest. It's a day of rest. It's a day of healing. And the healing comes from the Word of God. So no working, no causing other people to work, which means your daily jobs and your daily routines around the house and things like that. So if you feel like it would make you stumble to not prep beforehand, then prep beforehand. Because I know some people are more particular about the house being tidy. Some people aren't. And it's not going to cause them to stumble on the Sabbath. They're not going to be tempted, I really need to clean that sink. You know what I mean? But you don't want to go to the letter. It's not that you can't wipe your bench down. It's not that you can't pick a few of your kids' toys up. That's not the point. It's about dedicating your time and your focus to resting on the Sabbath, to reading the Word, to the things of God and to the brethren. That's the point of the Sabbath, really. So the lost sheep are scattered abroad the earth within the Gentiles. So how am I, a sheep from the UK, going to gather with my brethren when the whole church is apostate? Malachi 3:16 is prophecy of social media. We're going to be communicating often one to another from across the earth. So how else is that going to happen other than social media? Then Hebrews 10 tells you that we should never ever put off the Sabbath gathering. Don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together, especially as the day draws near. Why? Because meat and juice season and healing comes on the Sabbath. You're going to receive meat and juice season. The brothers that lead the gatherings receive the meat and juice season, or people who have received the meat and juice season are going to give it out on the Sabbath day. And it's amazing. You don't want to miss it. And if you are being called to serve and you're called to be the very elect, and you're trying to choose to be that, which means to serve God, which means to rebuke sin. Malachi 3:16 says that these people, a characteristic of these people is that they're going to be communicating often one to another. So if you're not doing that, you're not part of that group. So if you want to join our Sabbath gathering, we basically have 3 gatherings, beginning in the Australian time zone on their morning, then one on the UK morning, and then one on the Eastern Standard morning, 9 a.m. on Zoom. So the first 2 are on Twitter, the third one's on Zoom, and that goes like so long. It's like all day. And it's amazing. People just give testimonies of how they've found our group, how God led us together, and how they even woke up to know God, that everyone's sharing testimony, and it's just very healing. And people are bearing their burdens. There's teachings going on, readings, and it's just, we just go with the flow. We just get led by the Spirit. And God truly dwells with us on the Sabbath day. That's his appointed day, and it's part of the Holy Covenant, so it's eternal. So none of this, oh, well, we don't have the calendar, or, oh, isn't it the same as the feast? No, it's separate from the feast. It's the Holy Covenant. It wasn't just an added blessing to be done in the land of your inheritance on a certain day in the calendar. It's like totally different. But as for going to the letter of the law on the Sabbath, I say this all the time, and it's truly terrible because it makes the Sabbath, they pretend, oh, if that's a burden for you, then it's just don't listen to the Torah movement. So there's a few things where it says, don't light a fire and don't draw water. These things are idioms for starting arguments if you actually cross-reference and look in the Proverbs and things like that. Drawing water and lighting a match, it means starting like a actual unnecessary argument. And that's not talking about rebuking sin when needed, because that's doing good. Doing good and communicating and fulfilling the royal law, even sharply on the Sabbath day, is fine. So don't let anyone manipulate you and tell you otherwise. And try to say, you're arguing on the Sabbath. No, you've just sinned and I need to rebuke you. It's a totally different thing. But it's just unnecessary quarreling about things that are unrelated. You know, like when someone's just trying to like start dissension or strife. It's a good day to just rest with the brethren. And even not just put off the royal law, because when it comes up, you can't be partial. But it's like, on a usual day, maybe you spend a lot of time rebuking, fulfilling the royal law, making videos, and then you kind of just chill that day. I don't really make videos on the Sabbath. If I do, it's early in the morning before the gathering, so. But, yeah, so if you're going to go to the letter on lighting a match, or lighting a fire, like, some people are going to be like, so can I turn the light on? Can I turn the oven on? Can I turn the tap on? That's drawing water. Guys, man. That is not the point. Like, why are people going to the letter that far? Like, those extra commandments are within the law, and you've got to go to the spirit of the law. And the way you go to the spirit is you be led by the spirit to define those phrases. Lighting a fire, it's an idiom for causing an argument or causing strife, resisting the truth, things like that. You can't turn the light on. You can't light a candle. And you've just got to think about it logically as well. Like food prep and things like that. It's not a burden to scramble some eggs on a morning, to turn the gas on, melt butter, whisk some eggs up and scramble some eggs and have some eggs. You're not putting focus and attention. You're not slaving over it. Israel will have had to have slaved over their food. That's why they had to prep. It was like, could you imagine slaughtering an animal and butchering it? Like, it's a totally different situation to scrambling eggs or heating something up. I would still say, like, do as much prep as you can so that you don't have to think about it. But you can put the oven on and heat your food up. Or you can make something that you can't really, like, prep if it's just a small thing. And then I'll probably do a video on the Key of David, because this is, I don't have 2 minutes to explain the Key of David. But what else? Oh yeah, Isaiah 58. You've got to abstain. How is it worded? Abstain from doing your own pleasure on the Sabbath. So no sex. I know some people apply it to like hobbies and things like that, or just trying to entertain yourself in other ways. Like, that's also not the point of the Sabbath. Like, don't do that. But I think it is mainly just talking about having sex, like keeping that day sanctified. Come not at your wives. And that's to do with the Key of David. So the Key of David is the sexual fast 3 days unto the Sabbath. So no one can have sex on the Sabbath, or no one should have sex on the Sabbath, but the Key of David is fasting even 2 days prior to that. And you're blameless on the Sabbath, just like the priests and like David was, and the apostles and Yeshua. So yeah, don't cause others to work. Like, stop your daily routines, things like that. Put everything off. Gather with your family. You can put Bible shows on for Caleb if he wants to watch something. Eat, drink, be merry, gather with the brethren, and get healed. That's essentially what the Sabbath is. It's supposed to be a joy.